Rox confronted Imu, and not enough people are talking about this, as he held a gun in his hand and let Imu know his holy land is in panic. He also let Imu know about his support from Davy Jones. Definitely a legendary pirate from the Void Century, as Joy Boy was the first pirate ever, and Imu should know Davy Jones because Imu's been alive since the Void Century. I think Davy Jones is connected to Will of D, not just because his name starts with a D, but because he's a legendary figure that Rox was inspired by, another D member. Don't forget, Rox's D Zebek is his full name. He also told Imu he would return, and many believe it will be through his son Blackbeard, as even Roger had high hopes for his son Ace being Joy Boy because Roger was too early. But another reason why I think they fought is they described Rox as a large man in black, but he's pretty regular size in comparisons with Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom. I think it has to do with his power that is connected to Davy Jones, and he stopped using it after a clash with Imu. Yes, I think he went back to regular size after a clash with Imu, realizing he's not at the level yet to kill the king of the world. But I must admit, this clash with Imu had a great change in Rox. Yes, he killed an admiral and earned a pretty hefty bounty for that. But what he did after was truly interesting, attacking a ship with heavenly tributes meant for the celestial dragon and breaking the gates of justice as he catapulted himself into the pirate business, from being a one-man army to knowing he needed teamwork to truly be the king of the world. I believe he asked Roger, and maybe even more controversial, Garp to join him like he did Harold. It felt like after Rox met Imu, he was trying to restore a group similar to the Will of D but based on power. Probably the same reason Kaido and Blackbeard, who were inspired by Zebek, who recruited monsters to join them. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notification as we do a deep dive on Rox after he met Imu and the impact Imu had on Rox's pirate life and life in general. Another thing that's interesting after Rox interacted with Imu is that he's usually always going against the world government and very hostile towards them, but after he met and clashed with Imu, in my opinion, he started to recruit monsters like Whitebeard, Shiki, and new crewmates through this Davy back fight. And I have to give a huge shout out to Foxy, an arc that many people skip. And even when I was first reading and watching, and I was like, yo, this arc doesn't seem to be that important. Now in the current story, it's probably one of the most important arcs that you must not skip. The same way Skypiea is super important when it comes to building up the One Piece overall story. So I'm starting to think that these arcs that are lesser or more so, people don't really respect them as much as the main arcs, definitely are more so towards the greater story. And that's why a lot of people are making theories about Thriller Bark and how that's connected to what's going on right now currently. So to actually do a deep dive on Rox after he met Imu, we have to understand how much of a monster Imu had to be to do this much of an impact on a character who's already a monster. Like, of course, Rox 18 years later had his demise on God Valley, and that was his prime, but 18 years before that, he killed an admiral and clashed with Imu. And I think the first thing you gotta look at is Imu's origins, the first world. Yes, that mural that was in chapter 1138, where of course they called Imu the Earth God, and he had the Serpent of Hellfire as his pretty much underling. And pretty much why I believe he wants Loki in the Holy Knights is because Loki ate that legendary serpent dove food. And I feel like that's why he's mad at Harold for messing up in the critical hour, just like how Lily did with the Poneglyphs. Of course, Lily being a Will D member. And then you think about Saul and his Will D lineage and how that is connected to, of course, to maybe Loki and Harold actually being Will D's as well. But I just think that the first world was truly Imu's origins, his mythical creature origins, and I think it definitely needs to be discussed when it comes to his power, his innate power that can make Rox change and have such a shift in his ideology and his plans. Then we look at the second world. The second world is a little bit more tame when speaking about Imu. Of course, they call Imu a forest god instead of the earth, and they say he tamed demons. I think this is definitely more related to Imu here being the actual Nerona Imu, who ate the dove food or got the power from the original Imu creature from the first world. And I think this is definitely interesting because we saw in Elbaf how Imu is definitely very demon related, from the Gorosei and Egghead Island. So now we're seeing the Holy Knights in Elbaf, and now even just turning the giants into demons. Yo, Imu's Delver power is one of the more unique powers, and if anything, Imu to me is giving me final villain vibes. I think of all the characters in One Piece, Imu is the easiest to say that the perfect final villain. It's crazy because Imu was introduced late, and of course many people want Blackbeard and Akainu to be the likes of the final villain. I too, but because they've been built up to God knows how long. But still, Imu to me is the true final villain when it comes to his power and abilities. It just perfectly matches up. Just look at some of the introductions to Imu's character. Imu destroying the Lucia kingdom. Now people think, oh, Imu didn't do that with Imu's raw strength, but Imu used an ancient weapon in this current day, in this current era. Like we got the teaser of it with Poseidon and Shirahoshi during Fishman Island, but to see it actually being used to eviscerate an island and raise the sea levels shows you what kind of monster Imu is. But I truly believe a reason why I look at Imu as a beast was probably during Egghead Island, during that Reverie flashback where we see Sabo interacting with Imu. And of course, we see the Gorosei and their shadowed beast figures that were later revealed in the arc. And then of course we see Imu and how Imu was the craziest creature in the of course the silhouettes. But to see Imu actually damage Sabo, a lot of people don't talk about this. Sabo is a Haki specialist with immense physical strength, a Haki specialist, and the Mirror no Mi, the strongest revolutionary after Dragon. Sabo was going toe to toe with Fujitora and Dressrosa for a reason, and that was a freshly Mirror no Mi Sabo. So to see Sabo get injured that badly by one attack from Imu doesn't really go to Imu's Delphoid. In my opinion, that goes to Imu's Haki, which a lot of people don't talk about. Imu's Haki is one of the strongest we've ever witnessed in story. To make a Logia like Sabo who has strong Haki. It's not like a Logia who doesn't have that much good Haki. It's those Logias like Akainu who Vista and Marco couldn't even affect. That's how strong Akainu's Haki is. So to see Sabo get affected that much really goes to show how powerful Imu is, and that's who Rox was facing. Imu's power hasn't really been developing. It's been kind of this similar power since the Void Century, because over it's been 1,000 years. Like how much more can Imu develop as powers when Imu's not really fighting? You know, really said your Haki gets stronger as your Haki blooms as you fight stronger opponents. Imu really hasn't gone in at it with any strong opponents since the Void Century. So I thought it was pretty cool to see Sabo really make Imu look legit. But another reason why Imu is so powerful, and I'm not surprised that Rox didn't want to go full on fighting with Imu, is because of the Gorosei and the Admirals. The power scaling of the Gorosei and the Admirals really was fleshed out in Egghead Island, in my personal opinion. Just look at Saturn, just look at Kizaru. What they showed in Egghead Island really was the max. Of course, Kizaru with insane Logi abilities, and the fact that Kizaru was able to fight a Gear 5 Nika Luffy really showed how strong Kizaru was as the Admiral base power. And then Saturn, of course, having Conqueror's Haki and that mythical demon form, like that just is insane as well. And the immortality, yeah, the Gorosei and Admirals are legit. And look at the strongest Gorosei. In my opinion, Figureland Garling is the strongest Gorosei because he has that human element of insane power we see on, of course, God Valley. Of course, look at his sons, Shanks and, of course, Shamrock. And then now he has the immortality and the demon powers that Imu has bestowed upon him as the strongest Gorosei. And then look at Akainu. Akainu was already incredibly powerful in Marineford, fighting Whitebeard, taking half his face off, making Blackbeard don't even want to smoke. And also, Akainu has a similar feat to Roxy Zebek. Of course, Roxy is better because he killed an admiral, but Akainu defeated Aokiji in 10 days, and Aokiji probably is stronger than that admiral that Rox killed. I'm just assuming, but I think that definitely the admirals of Akainu, Aokiji, Kizaru are the pinnacle of the admirals, of course. I think Sengoku, obviously, and Kong are in contention, of course, but we haven't seen much yet of them in their prime. But I think, yeah, definitely Akainu and Garling being the strongest Gorosei and admirals definitely shows to how strong Imu is, because we know Akainu and Garling are definitely not stronger than Imu. Imu is above these monsters. Now, a lot of people definitely feel like Imu's PR definitely took a hit at the end of Egghead Island when Joy Boy's Haki was released through that rope. And of course, Imu had PTSD facing or witnessing or experiencing Joy Boy's Haki for the first time since the Void Century. And it scared Imu. Imu was on his knees, scared, shocked, shook of what he just witnessed. And in my opinion, that means that Joy Boy's Haki has to be one step above the Pirate King level Haki of Roger, of Whitebeard in their prime. Yeah, I think Joy Boy's Haki of Rocks, of course. I think Joy Boy's Haki is the pinnacle Haki to make Imu fall like that. Now, I don't think this is a shot to Imu's power. I think it's more so to respect to Joy Boy's Haki. Imu, I think, is on the same level as Joy Boy. Of course, if I had to pick, I would choose Joy Boy. I think that Joy Boy lost through some other means. I think Joy Boy is the reason why Imu's so scared, because Joy Boy is the only one who can defeat Imu, and Luffy will, of course, inherit that Joy Boy power through the Nika Dove Fruit and, of course, developing his Haki. I also want to mention how Rox and Herald, of course, to me was a carbon copy of Dragon and Vegapunk, in the fact that, of course, you have to understand that Dragon wanted Vegapunk to join him, and then Vegapunk went last minute against the world government and was defeated and killed. The same way that Rox wanted Herald to join him, and the last minute Harold went against the world government and was killed. Of course, leading to Harold's death. I think it was a last minute change in Harold, who didn't want to go through with the monstrosity of Imu. And that's why Imu was talking bad on Harold. The Holy Knights are talking bad on Harold. Honestly, looking at Harold's character in the flashback, I was wrong. I thought Harold was a piece of shit traitor. No, he's actually a good dude, guys. I also want to mention how Rock's keeping Imu a secret to his crew, to his rivals, is pretty insane. I wouldn't be surprised if Roger knew through some other means, though, or through Rock's. The same way Roger and Whitebeard talk, I think Rocks and Roger definitely could have talked in God Valley. But I definitely think that Roger, in my opinion, met Imu the same way Rocks did. I think in different conventional ways. I think Rocks met Imu, of course, trying to kill him, while Roger met Imu trying to see him, because Roger was almost already going to die with that, of course, disease. That still needs to be discussed. Roger's disease is not a normal disease, guys. Roger is the Pirate King. He had to do something to do with something Haki related, in my opinion. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I think that, of course, before his death, he met Imu. And that's probably why he turned himself in. The fact that he knew of Imu, he wanted to meet Imu before he dies and have a conversation, of course, because Roger was too early. But Roger wanted to tell Imu, yeah, I will definitely be back. I think if Roger said the exact same thing that Rock said, that would be insane if we get a moment of Luffy fighting Imu and we see Rock saying he'll be back. And of course, we see Roger saying he'll be back. And even Blackbeard involved as well. I think that would be great writing from Oda, guys. That would be fire. Now, to give a little bit of introspective look into Imu's power right now, currently in Elbaf, he's low diffing giants, which is pretty cool. I always felt like if you're able to low diff multiple giants, you're a monster. So that's pretty cool. And Imu's not even in Imu's original body. Imu's using Gunko. And the fact that, of course, Imu shot off Brogy's arm, like Dory and Brogy are incredibly powerful. We saw what they did on Little Garden. We saw what they did in Akat Island. We saw what they did to Kid Ship. Like, they have incredible power. Their crew even said their skin is as tough as nails. They're incredibly powerful. The bounty is like 2.2 billion, around 2 billion berry bounties, or close to it. I forgot the number exactly. So to see Imu easily shoot off Brogy's arm, yeah, that's power, guys. When you're able to make someone strong look weak, that's power. And then I have to mention too, the fact that Imu is converting these giant pirates and giants in general into demon warriors for Imu's own gain is freaking crazy, guys. Like, what the fuck? I'm not gonna lie, excuse my language, I don't usually swear in these videos, but Imu having this hacks ability, it's just a different element. Like, Imu's always gonna have the numbers. Like, we always talk about Wano and how the numbers was so calculated by CP0. Look at Imu. Imu will always have the numbers, and that says a lot to how powerful Imu is. Not just because of Imu's base strength, but Imu's hacks abilities. Like, hacks matters, and Imu should have hacks when dealing with Nika and Nika's hacks as well. Like, that Nika versus Imu fight is already like previewing a hacks battle, and I can't wait to see. It's going to be mind-boggling, and it's really going to put power scaling of Luffy and Nika to insane levels. The gap is going to be huge when compared to everyone else, guys, because hacks is what makes power scaling insane. Like, it's even hard to understand and, of course, grasp the concept of it. Now, I do got to mention the Imu Gunko had Scarper, Zoro, Sanji, Luffy as well, and Loki, of course. Loki was like orgasming over the Conqueror's Haki that Imu was showing. It also shows that Loki enjoys evil, dark Haki, as Luffy is more so ready, like, I gotta stop this dark Haki I'm feeling. Loki was like, yo, this Haki is so crazy, I gotta fight it. I feel like that really says all you need to know about how strong Imu is. Imu's not even physically there in Elbaf, took over Gunko, and has some of the strongest characters on the island in shock and awe of Imu's Haki. Yeah, and the reason why Imu calls himself Mu, I think I understand why. Imu really regards himself as a beast, as a monster. The man literally said ungodly power. Like, he's just gassing himself to like crazy levels. So to make Imu this strong, like, these are all cases of why Imu's so powerful in hacks. But then you gotta look at, of course, God Valley when it comes to Roger and Garp teamed up in their prime versus Roxy Zebek. A cannon-like swordsmanship, a hammer-like swordsmanship, insane Conqueror's Haki, able to kill an admiral 10 years before God Valley, and Imu, oh, I believe actually killed the admiral 18 years before God Valley. Don't quote me on that. And Imu is above that. I believe Dragon will be Pirate King level, and he will be overpowered by Imu. And Imu's definitely showed some insane power that made rocks back down, but he's not immortal. See, the reason why I believe Imu's not immortal is because he's scared of the sea. I think that is a big factor. Why Vegamonk's message pissed him off so badly is because he's building these bridges like Tequila Wolf, and the red lines, of course, living on there is because if he falls into the water at one point in the battle with the help of Shirahoshi the Poseidon, the reason why Imu had Poseidon's picture, Luffy vs. Imu will not be a 1v1, guys. It'll be a team effort, and that water is really the biggest enemy. That's why it was mentioned in the mural. The sea, of course, is one of the biggest reason, the sea devil's biggest reason why some of these monsters will fall. I think Blackbird has to be wary of the sea, and I think Imu has to be even more wary of the sea. So definitely want to say Rocks, after seeing Imu, definitely changed how Rocks looked at the world, but it also changes how we look at Imu, guys. Imu's a threat that we shouldn't take lightly, guys. Like, I know Luffy just overpowers everybody. No. Imu, it's gonna take a team effort, and I can't wait for this final war. Oh man, when the One Piece is found, Whitebeard said it best, guys. So that's my thoughts on, of course, Rocks after Imu.